Hello students, welcome to our online platform. Myself Engineer PP sir, your physics mentor. Students, in previous lecture we discussed about refraction of light in plane and curvical surfaces. So today we are going to talk about lenses in liquid, how their focal length is affected when they are placed or when they are dipped in liquid. So see, lenses in liquid, focal length of lens in liquid can be determined by the following formula. So this formula can be used. We have seen in previous lecture that focal length is f is equal to a mu g minus 1 with respect to focal length in air. So it is 1 mu g minus 1. So this is the relation. This is the relation which is used to find focal length in any medium. So in general we know the formula of focal length 1 upon f is equal to mu 2 1 minus 1 into 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. So we use generally this formula. This is known as lens maker formula. So this formula is used to find focal length of any curvical surface, or you can say spherical surface. Now see, focal length of a glass lens is f in air, then inside the water its focal length is 4f. So it can be calculated by using the above relation. In liquid, focal length of lens increases and its power decreases. So we know the relation that P is inversely proportional to F. So in mediums, if focal length increases, then its power will be decreased. Opposite behavior of a lens. So let us see how it behave oppositely in any medium. In general, refractive index of glass is greater than refractive index of medium surrounding in it. So in first case, if refractive index is greater than refractive index of medium, then in this case it will behave as a converging lens, means light will be converges at a place, while in case when refractive index of lens is less than refractive index of medium, then light will be separated, or you can say light will be diverged out after refraction. In third case, if refractive index of medium is equal to refractive index of lens, then there is no deviation of light. It means light will pass parallel to principal axis. So these are some different cases where refractive index of lens and refractive index of medium are compared to find refraction phenomena. Lens formula and magnification of lens. So this is the lens formula. So lens formula is basically is given between u, v and f. So in this relation 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon v minus 1 upon u. So f is focal length of given lens, v is distance of image from optical center, and u is distance of object from optical center. If we talk about magnification, then again magnification is similar to magnification studied in lenses. So magnification is defined as size of image with respect to size of object, means m is equal to I upon O, or you can say v upon u. So these are different types of formulas based on given values. Now this is transverse magnification. So transverse magnification is perpendicular to principal axis, and longitudinal magnification means if object is placed parallel to principal axis. In that case, this is defined as m is equal to dv upon du, means change in length of image with respect to change in length of object, or you can say it is v square upon u square. So this is the general formula of lateral magnification and longitudinal magnification. Now aerial magnification. So aerial magnification is area of image with respect to area of object. In general, we can say that it is equal to square of lateral magnification, m square. So m surface or m area is equal to m square, which is linear magnification or lateral magnification. Relation between object and image speed. So this can be explained if an object moves with constant speed v0 towards a convex lens from infinity, the image will move slower in beginning and then faster. So it can be calculated by using the concept of magnification. Vi is equal to velocity of image is equal to f square upon f plus u square into velocity of object. So this is the relation between velocity of image and velocity of object. So what we can say that when object moves towards the lens from infinity, then initially its image will move slowly, and then after it moves faster. Now see focal length of convex lens by displacement method. So this is the displacement method. Here it is clear, focal length of lens is d square minus x square upon 4d. So here x is displacement between the lenses. X is displacement between the lenses. This d is greater than 4f, means at least there should be separation of object from the image which is greater than 4f or greater than 4f from screen. So separation between image and object should be greater than 4f. So in this case focal length is f is equal to d square minus x square upon 4d. D square minus x square upon 4d, or you can say x upon m1 minus m2. So m1 is magnification in initial case and m2 is magnification in final case. So m1 is I1 upon O and m2 is I2 upon O. First image, second image concept. So size of object can be given as O is equal to root of I1 into I2. Size of image multiplied size of image in first case multiplied by size of image in second case, and its whole root is defined as size of object. So this is the simple concept. This can be used to find focal length in displacement method. Now cutting of lenses. So see, lenses can be cut into two ways. One is perpendicular to principal axis and another one is parallel to principal axis. So in first case, when it is cut perpendicular to principal axis, then in this situation there are two lenses. These lenses are of type plano-convex. These are of type plano-convex. One surface is plane and another surface is convex, and their focal length become twice. So focal length is twice, so power will be half, because power is reciprocal of focal length. So if focal length becomes twice, then power will be half. While if we cut these lenses in such a way that it is along the principal axis, then in this situation there is no change in focal length and power, they remains same. So this is the general concept of cutting. Now see combination of lenses. So if we consider that there are thin lenses which are placed in contact with each other, then net power of that combination is equal to sum of individual powers of lenses, and net reciprocal of focal length is equal to sum of reciprocal of individual focal lengths. 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon f1 plus f2 up to 1 upon f3. So hence we can say that final magnification of image formed by that combination of lenses is equal to multiplication of magnification produced by each lens, means m1, m2, m3 and so on, as many lenses are placed in contact with each other. In case when two thin lenses are in contact, so if two thin lenses are in contact, then we can say that in this case f is equal to f1 f2 upon f1 plus f2, and power becomes equal to p1 plus p2. If two lenses of equal focal length but of opposite nature, if two lenses of equal focal length and opposite nature are placed in contact, in that case that surface will behave as plain glass plate, because focal length of this combination becomes infinite, and infinite focal length and infinite radius of curvature is generally of plane surfaces. So we can say that if there are two lenses of similar focal length and opposite nature, then their combination will behave as a plane surface. Now see next, when two lenses are placed coaxially at a distance d from each other, then equivalent focal length. So let us say in this situation they are not placed in contact and they are separated by a certain distance, then in this case their focal length will be minus d upon f1 f2. Minus d upon f1 f2 will be subtracted from the equivalent focal length. Similarly, in case of power, d p1 p2 is also subtracted from the actual power of combination of thin lenses. Now see combination of parts of lens. So this can be explained based on concept of combination. Let's say here we are given a convex lens, it has been cut into two equal parts and these two parts are placed with each other like this. So they can be placed either one plane surface, one convex surface, and either both convex surfaces can be placed in contact. So in this situation focal length is equal to f. focal length is equal to f, because focal length of each part, we have studied that focal length of each part becomes equal to 2f. So their combination 1 upon f is 1 upon f dash is equal to 1 upon 2f plus 1 upon 2f, and it is equal to 1 upon f. So we can say that f dash is equal to f. Hence we can say that either one convex and one plane surface are in contact, or you can say both convex surfaces are in contact. Then equivalent focal length will be equal to f, initial focal length. Now if we cut this lens along its principal axis and now they are placed in contact, then in this situation, if they are placed in such a way, in this way, then in this situation, let us say focal length of each part is f. So they are placed in contact with each other. So we will use again the same relation, 1 upon capital F is equal to 1 upon f plus 1 upon f, and it is 2 upon f. So we can say capital F is equal to f by 2. So in this case, focal length will be f by 2 combination for this combination. And if they are placed inverted to each other, then in this situation focal length becomes infinity, because focal length of one is taken as f, then focal length of another one is taken as minus f, and in that case 1 upon f minus 1 upon f becomes equal to 0. So 1 upon f becomes equal to 0, and hence f becomes equal to infinite. So this is the simple concept of cutting and their combinations. Now see, silvering of lenses. What is the effect of silvering of lenses? So on silvering the surface of lens, it behaves as a mirror. So if we silver one surface, one refracting surface, then it will behave as a mirror, and focal length of silvered lens is defined as 1 upon capital F is equal to 2 upon f1 plus 1 upon fm. So it is 1 upon f is equal to 2 upon fm, 2 upon f1, 2 upon f1 plus 1 upon fm. So here f1 is focal length of lens from which refraction takes place, and fm is focal length of mirror from which reflection takes place. So this is the mirror, the surface which has been silvered. In other words, you can say the surface which has been silvered. Let us say this is your lens and one surface is silvered. So let us say this surface is silvered. So here focal length fm is for this surface and focal length f1 is for this surface. So here it is taken as 2 upon f1 because refraction takes place from this surface twice. Refraction takes place from this surface twice. Let us say like this. Let us say this is a light ray, it bends from the surface and incident on this. Again it acts as a surface, it acts as a plane, it acts as a mirror. So again light will bounce back and it will be again refracted. So here are two refractions, one is here and another one is here. So we use that from the lens of focal length f1, light is refracted twice, so its focal length is twice upon f1, and from mirror its surface it is refracted one time, so it is 1 upon fm. So we can say for this combination they are placed in contact with each other. So we will use the earlier one formula, 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2 and so on. So here it is 1 upon f is equal to twice upon f1 plus 1 upon fm. Now see, if plano-convex is silvered, let us say plano-convex surface is silvered. So this is a plano-convex mirror, a plano-convex lens, and this convex surface is silvered. In this case we can say that this is the combination of a plano-convex lens and a mirror. So in this situation, focal length of this mirror is r by 2, means half of radius, and focal length of this surface is r upon mu minus 1. So we have seen this formula also from refraction through spherical surfaces we have seen. So f is equal to here f is equal to r upon 2 mu. So this can be explained with the formula 1 upon f is equal to mu 2 1 minus 1 into 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. So this is the concept. In case of fm it is r by 2, so we can place r by 2, and in case of this surface we can place it is equal to r. So our formula will be f is equal to capital R upon 2 mu by using this formula. In this case, if plane surface is polished, so if plane surface is polished, then its focal length is infinite, because for planar surfaces radius of curvature and focal length becomes infinite. So Fm becomes infinite, and F1 is equal to R upon mu minus 1. So we can say that for net combination, F is equal to R upon 2 mu minus 1. So this is the general concept. Now see, similar results can be obtained for convex lenses. So similarly, we can use these relations for convex lens also. Now see, defects in lenses. So in lenses, generally there are two type of defects. One is chromatic aberration and the another one is spherical aberration. So let us have a look on that. First of all, we are talking about chromatic aberration. Chromatic aberration means that if we talk about VIBGYOR, visible light spectrum is VIBGYOR. So in case of VIBGYOR, each color of light has a different wavelength. Each color of light has a different wavelength, and they have different focal lengths also. So whenever light travels or light refracts from a surface, then for violet and red color, there will be different focuses. So here will be separation between violet and red color. So this is known as chromatic aberration. It means image of white object is colored and blurred. So blurred will be because there is separation between violet and red colors focal length. Different for different colors, this defect is called chromatic aberration. So we can clearly see that each color of light has different wavelengths, hence they will have different focuses. It means they will coincident at different places, hence image of any white object will be blurred and colored. Now see how it can be removed. So removal of chromatic aberration is known as achromatism. It is known as achromatism. So what we do, so remove this chromatic aberration, we simply use two or more lenses in contact in place of a single lens. We generally use two or more lenses. Mathematically, condition for achromatism is omega 1 upon f1 plus omega 2 upon f2 is equal to 0. So this is the mathematical relation. It is directly used in our NEET and JEE section. Omega 1 upon f1 plus omega 2 upon f2 is equal to 0. So here omega 1, omega 2 are angular dispersion. Angular dispersion. Now see, component lenses of an achromatism. Component lenses of an achromatic doublet cemented by Canada balsam because it is transparent and has a refractive index almost equal to refractive index of glass. So what we can do to remove chromatic aberration, we use two or more lenses in contact with each other, and this contact can be made by a transparent cement which is known as Canada balsam. So we use Canada balsam cement here to place them in contact because it has refractive index equal to refractive index of glass. Then second defect is spherical aberration. So spherical aberration means inability of a lens to form the point image of a point object on the axis is called spherical aberration. It means we generally do not get point image of an point object on its axis. So this defect is known as spherical aberration. In this defect, all the rays passing through a lens are not focused at a single place. So it is why, because all the light rays which are coming parallel to principal axis are not focused at a single place. So it generally defined on based on marginal rays and paraaxial rays. So we can clearly see that these marginal rays focused at a point just before paraaxial light rays. It means that for marginal rays focus is they are focused at a point nearby the lens, and for paraaxial they are merged at a point just above the focus of marginal rays. So in this case we can clearly see that these light rays which comes parallel to principal axis are not placed at a particular fixed point. Marginal rays focus at a point just before, and paraaxial light rays focuses at a point which is far away from this point. So this is the general concept of spherical aberration. Now see how it can be removed. So a simple method of to reduce spherical aberration is to use stop before and in front of lens. So we generally use stoppers. We use stoppers. How? Let us say that we have to stop the paraxial rays. So we will place a stopper. We will place a stopper just before this way. So in this case, these paraxial light rays will not pass through this lens and only marginal light rays will pass and they will be focused at a particular point. Hence, this defect can be minimized or can be removed. So what is the concept? We use stoppers, but this method reduces the intensity of image as the most of the light is cut off. So definitely it will reduce the intensity because most of the light is blocked. It is not passing through the lens. Also by using plano-convex lens, so using two lenses separately by distance f minus f dash using crossed lens. So we can use crossed lens to remove this spherical aberration. So marginal rays, the rays farther from the principal axis. So marginal rays are rays which travels at farther distance from principal axis, and paraaxial which are closer to the principal axis. Closer to the principal axis. Spherical aberration can be reduced by either stopping paraaxial rays or marginal rays. So as I told you earlier that stoppers are used either to remove paraaxial light rays or to control marginal rays. Parabolic mirrors are also used to remove spherical aberration. So we generally use parabolic mirrors also to remove spherical aberration. So these are some defects. Let us talk about coma. So when the point object is placed away from the principal axis and the image is received on a screen perpendicular to the axis, the shape of image is like a comet, this way. This defect is called coma. So what we are considering that if object is placed away from principal axis and image is received on a screen perpendicular to axis, then its image formed like a comet. That's why it is known as coma defect. It refers to spreading of a point object in a plane perpendicular to principal axis. It means here a point object is spreaded in vertical plane or perpendicular plane to the axis. So its removal. So it can be reduced by properly designing radii of curvature of lens surfaces. It can also be reduced by appropriate stops placed at appropriate distances from the lenses. So again, we can use stoppers to minimize this coma defect, or we can say that we can design proper radius of curvature of lenses used. Now see curvature. So for a point object placed off the axis, the image is spread both along and perpendicular to the principal axis. The best image is in general obtained not on a plane but on a curved surface. This defect is called as curvature. So what we are considering that whenever any point object is placed off the axis means not on the axis, then the image forms along the axis and perpendicular to the axis. In this situation, what we can say that image is obtained on curved surface. So this defect is known as curvature. Its removal. So its removal is astigmatism, or the curvature may be reduced by using proper stoppers. Then distortion. When extended objects are imaged, different portion of objects are in general at different distances from the axis. The magnification is not the same for all the portions. So what we can say that in distortion case, what we can say that if objects are extended, so in case of extended objects, we cannot find proper magnification in their images. There some portion are distorted. That's why it is known as distortion defect. So it can be clearly seen. This is purely a rectangular object and its image, particular parts are distorted. Then astigmatism. So astigmatism is simply the spreading of image of a point object placed away from the principal axis along the principal axis. So if light passes through a point object which is placed near the principal axis, then its image is spreaded. So these are some general concepts. So let us have a look on some pattern of questions. A thin lens of focal length f1 and its aperture has a diameter d. It forms an image of intensity I. Now the central part of aperture up to diameter d by 2 is blocked by an opaque paper. The focal length and image intensity will change too. So it can clearly be seen that center part of aperture up to a diameter d by 2 is blocked. Half of diameter is blocked. That is 1/4 of area is blocked because area is pi r square. So here it is pi d by 2 whole square means pi d square by 4. Hence remaining area 3 by 4a. Also we know that intensity, so we know that intensity is directly proportional to area. So if remaining area is 3 by 4a, then intensity will also be 3 by 4i. So intensity is 3 by 4i, and focal length doesn't depend upon aperture. So focal length will remain same. So any option having this value, so it is D. It is F and 3i by 4. So D option will be correct. In next, we are given the power of a thin convex lens is 5D. When it is placed in a liquid of refractive index a mu1, then it behave as a convex lens of focal length 100 centimeter. So the refractive index of liquid, so we have to calculate refractive index of liquid. So we know the formula, F liquid upon F air is equal to liquid mu g minus 1 upon air mu g minus 1. So here we are given focal length in both the situations. In first case we are given power. So focal length can be calculated by using the relation P is equal to 1 upon F or F is equal to 1 upon P. We have to calculate refractive index of glass with respect to liquid. And we know refractive index of glass with respect to air, which is given as 1.5. So it is L mu g minus 1 upon 0.5. And we are given power in case of when it is placed in glass to air, means F air is given as 5 diopter, which is 20 centimeter. So 20 into 2 40. So F L is equal to 40 into L mu g minus 1. And we have to calculate L mu g. FL is given as 100 centimeter. So it is 100 10 by 4, or you can say that 10 is equal to 4 L mu g, and it is 14. So L mu g is equal to 14 by 4. So it is almost 10 plus 4. So it can be calculated by using this relation, 5 by 3. So these are some pattern of questions. Students, practice these questions on your own by stopping the video, note down these questions and practice on your own. This question is very similar. Focal length of convex and concave lens is given. They are placed in contact and you have to find focal length of combination. In next question, spherical surface of radius of curvature for glass, center of curvature placed in air have real the line PQ and distance PQ. So again, this is very simple pattern of question. So students, practice these questions on your own. These are very simple pattern of questions. So this is the again an interesting pattern of question which is very easy. A luminous object is placed at a distance of 30 centimeter from the convex lens. So you are given U. You are given U. So U is minus 30 centimeter. Focal length is given 20 centimeter. So focal length of convex lens, which is positive, it means F is given as plus 20 centimeter. On the other side of lens, at what distance from the lens a convex mirror of radius of curvature 10 centimeter be placed? So for mirror, radius of curvature is given as 10 centimeter. So its focus is at 5 centimeter, means focal length is 5 centimeter. Upright image of object incident within it. So this is the case which has been explained here. So first of all, for lens you are given U and F. So calculate V, position of image. So if you calculate position of image, then it is very clear that it is at plus 60 centimeter, means real image is formed, and real image is formed in at 60 centimeter distance. So this object is at 30 centimeter and its focus is at 5 centimeter. So here separation between this optical center of this lens and its image is 60 centimeter. Now see, we are given upright image of object coincident within it. So the final image will coincide with the object if light rays fall normally on the convex mirror as shown. So if light travels or light incidents normally on the surface, then only light will bounce back on the same path. So in this case, it is clear from figure it is seen that repartition between lens and mirror is 60 minus 10. So this is the separation between that. This 10 is radius of curvature, total distance which has been calculated 60. So separation between lens and mirror is 50 centimeter. So again, this is also a combination of convex and concave mirror, but separation between them is D. So we know the formula that it is D upon F1 F2 will be subtracted from original formula. Now let us talk about prism. So prism is a transparent medium bounded by refracting surfaces such that incident surface and emergent surface are plane and non-parallel. So these may be in these different shapes. One is equilateral prism, right angled prism and right angle isosceles prism. So these are commonly used prisms. Now see refraction through a prism. So if we talk about refraction through prism, then let us say in any prism there are two refracting surfaces and angle between these refracting surfaces is known as angle of prism. So this angle is known as angle of prism. This BC is known as base of this prism. BC is known as base of this prism. So whenever light incidents on any surface of prism, then it refracts two times by two refracting surfaces AC and AB. So here it is very clear from its diagram. Let us say that light ray is traveling by making an angle I on first surface and angle R1 from this first surface. Angle R2 is made by second surface and E is angle of emergence. So from here we can say that A is equal to R1 plus R2. Angle of prism is equal to angle of refraction from first side plus angle of refraction from second side. Similarly, sum of I plus E. I is angle of incidence on first surface and E is angle of emergence on second surface is equal to A plus del. So this del is defined as deviation. So this is the emergent ray and this is the refracted ray. So angle between these rays is known as angle of deviation, or directly we can say deviation. So here for surface AC. So if we talk about for first surface, then it is mu is equal to sin I upon sin R1. Sin I upon sin R1. And for second surface, it is mu is equal to sin R2 upon sin E. So E is angle of emergence. Now see deviation through a prism. So if we talk about deviation, then deviation can be defined as del is equal to A into mu minus 1. So A is angle of prism and mu is refractive index of medium of prism. Also deviation is different for different colors. So refractive index of violet color is greater than refractive index of red color due to by Cauchy's law. We have seen by Cauchy's law that refractive index is inversely proportional to wavelength. So wavelength of red color is high, so its refractive index will be low with respect to violet color. So deviation in violet color will also high because del is proportional to mu. So larger the value of mu for any particular color, larger the deviation. Now see maximum and minimum deviation in case of a prism. So if we talk about maximum deviation, then we consider that light ray incidents on first surface normally. It means angle I becomes 90 degree. So for maximum deviation, condition is that I is equal to 90 degree, R1 is equal to critical angle, R1 is equal to critical angle, and R2 and E is given. In that case, del will be maximum. Del will be maximum. So we can say that R1 is equal to C, R2 is equal to A minus C. So A is equal to R1 plus R2 So R1 is equal to C. So we can say R2 is equal to A minus C. Now see, sine E now becomes equal to sine A minus C upon sine C. So this is the case of maximum deviation. So simply keep in mind that light incidents on first surface normally, then there will be maximum deviation. And if light incidents on first surface in such a way that angle of incidence on first surface becomes equal to angle of emergence on second surface, in that case deviation will be minimum. It means first condition is that I is equal to E, and second condition is that R1 is equal to R2. In that case, R becomes equal to A by 2 and I becomes equal to A plus del M upon 2. So del M is minimum deviation. So refractive index is now equal to sine A plus del M upon 2 divided by sine A by 2. So this is the refractive index in minimum deviation case. If we plot a graph between I and del, then this relation is given by this graph. So here this minimum value represents minimum deviation, and here this is the angle I. So angle I becomes equal to in case of minimum deviation. If del M is equal to A, if we say that del M is equal to A, then mu is equal to 2 cos A by 2. So this relation is generally directly can be asked in any competitive section, that for minimum deviation, if minimum deviation is equal to angle of prism, then what is refractive index? So it can be calculated by using relation mu is equal to 2 cos A by 2. Now see normal incidence on a prism. So case of normal incidence. So in first situation, if it normally incidents, then in normal incidence angle I becomes 0. Angle I becomes 0. Now see, in this situation we were, sorry students, in this case I was explaining about I is equal to 90 degree means grazing incidence. There will be grazing incidence. Grazing incidence means along the surface. So this is the case of grazing incidence. In grazing incidence, deviation will be maximum. In case of normal incidence, I and R becomes equal to 0. So I becomes equal to 0 and R1 becomes equal to 0. So similarly, if it reflects a perpendicular, then again E0 and R2 0. So these are cases of normal incidence. In any of the above case, mu is equal to sine I upon sine A, or you can say del is equal to I minus A. Del is equal to I minus A. Grazing emergence and TIR through a prism. So what is grazing emergence and TIR? So when a light ray falls on the surface of prism, let us say light ray is incidenting on the surface of prism, it is not necessary that it will exit out from the prism. So it is not necessary that it will exit out of the prism. It may or may not be exit out as shown below. So see, in first case we are considering normal incidence. So ray 1, this is ray 1. So ray 1 is general emergence, means angle of prism is less than critical angle and mu is less than cosec A. Now second one is grazing emergence. Grazing means along the refracting surface. In this case, A becomes equal to C and mu is equal to cosec A. And in third case, it has been inside the prism. It means it has been total internally reflected. So A is greater than critical angle and mu is also greater than cosec A. So this is a standard and general relation, that if light ray is outside the prism, then general emergence. In this situation, angle of prism is always less than critical angle and mu is also less than cosec A. While if light is along the refracting surface, then in this case angle of incidence becomes equal to angle critical angle, and we can say that mu is equal to cosec A. And in third situation, light is inside the prism. In this case, it is representing total internal reflection, and in total internal reflection we know that angle of incidence should be greater than critical angle. So here angle of incidence is equal to angle of prism. So A is greater than C and mu is also greater than cosec A. So here A is angle of prism and C is critical angle. Now grazing incidence. So in case of grazing incidence, let us say we are considering that light is incident by grazing, it is refracted, and now again three possible cases are there. In first case, normal or general emergence is there. It means again A is less than 2C and mu is less than cosec A by 2. In second case, again grazing emergence, so A is equal to 2C and mu is equal to cosec A by 2. So in this case, simply you have to keep in mind that there will be comparison between A and 2C. So similarly, if A and 2C are compared, then mu and A by 2 will be compared. For the condition of grazing emergence, minimum angle of incidence, so this should be the minimum angle of incidence. Sine inverse mu square minus root sine A minus cos A. Now see dispersion of light through a prism. So dispersion means whenever white light incidents on a prism, then it divides into color components which are Vibgyor. So we can clearly see that a spectrum of light is observed. Spectrum of light is observed when it passes through a prism, when white light passes through a prism. So when white light passes through a prism, then it divides into its color components, which is Vibgyor, and we can clearly see from here that its pattern is at the lowest it is V and at the largest it is R. So we can clearly see that deviation is minimum in red color and maximum in violet color. So maximum deviation in violet color and minimum is in red color. So we have seen this relation based on refractive index and wavelength. Now see angular dispersion. So angular dispersion is angular separation between extreme colors. So it can be explained by this. So if I draw it in backside and if I draw it also in backside, then angle between them, this angle is known as angular dispersion. So angular separation between extreme colors means between violet color and red color. Angular separation is known as angular dispersion. It is theta is equal to mu v del v minus del r. So as I told you earlier that maximum deviation in violet color and minimum deviation in red color. So angular separation is known as angular dispersion, which is del v minus del r. Del v minus del r, and we know value of del. So value of del is equal to A into mu minus 1. So we can also say that theta is equal to A mu v minus mu r. So this is also the relation of angular dispersion. Now dispersive power. So dispersive power means it is the angular dispersion with respect to middle color. Dispersion in middle color is generally taken as yellow. So in Vibgyor spectrum, yellow color is generally taken as middle color. So we talk about angular dispersion with respect to deviation in yellow color or in middle color. So this is the general concept. It depends only on the material of prism, that is mu, and it doesn't depends upon angle of prism. So keep in mind dispersive power simply depends on angle of material of prism, means it depends on refractive index mu. Remember, omega flint is greater than omega crown. So omega dispersive power for flint glass is greater than for crown glass. Combination of prisms. So let us have a look on combination of prisms. So two prisms are combined to get either dispersion only or deviation only. So two prisms are placed in such a way that in one case they are only showing dispersion, and in another case they are only showing deviation. So dispersion without deviation, it is known as chromatic combination, and dispersion without deviation. And second is deviation without dispersion. So dispersion without deviation is known as chromatic, and deviation without dispersion is known as achromatic combination. So let us have a look. These are two combinations are given. What is happening in these cases? So in these cases simply you have to keep in mind these two relations. So A dash upon A angle of prism. A dash are angle of prism for both the prisms. So it is mu y minus 1 upon mu dash y minus 1. So this is the standard relation. Similarly, theta net means net deviation. Net deviation is theta into 1 minus omega dash upon omega, or we can say theta net is equal to omega into del minus omega dash del dash. So omega is dispersive power of one lens, del is deviation from that lens, omega dash del dash are dispersive power and deviation from another lens respectively. Similarly, in second case, if we talk about, in second case we are talking about dispersion without deviation, deviation without dispersion. So without deviation, del net is equal to del into 1 minus omega upon omega dash. So these are some general relations for two cases. Now see scattering of light. So molecules of a medium after absorbing incoming light radiations. So let us say that light rays, when light ray travels from any medium, then this light ray can be absorbed by the particles of that medium and they emergent new light. They emergent new light. So this concept is known as scattering. This concept is known as scattering. So according to scientist Rayleigh, intensity of scattered light is reciprocal to lambda to the power 4, means fourth power of wavelength पे depend करेगा. Some phenomena based on scattering. So some phenomena are like sky looks blue due to scattering. At the time of sunrise or sunset, it looks reddish. Danger signals are made from red color. Elastic scattering, when the wavelength of radiation remains unchanged, the scattering is called elastic. Inelastic is simply defined as Raman's effect. Under specific condition, light can also suffer inelastic scattering from molecules in which its wavelength changes. So these are some different natural phenomena which are based on scattering of light. Now see rainbow. So rainbow is basically formed due to dispersion of light, refraction and total internal reflection in the droplets present in the atmosphere. Rainbow can be formed in two ways, primary and secondary. So simply in rainbow you have seen a layer of 7 colors of Vibgyor. So in one type of rainbow, violet is at top and red is at bottom, and in second type of rainbow, red is at top and violet is at bottom. So we can clearly see from here that in case of primary rainbow, this is the concept, this is the angle at 41 and 43. So this is for red and this is for violet. And in case of secondary, this is the violet which is making an angle of 54 degree, and this is the red which is making an angle of 51 degree. So in case of here, this angular separation is almost of 3 degree. In secondary rainbow, angular separation is of almost 3 degree, while in case of primary rainbow, this is almost 2 degree to 3 degree. And what we can see that in case of secondary rainbow, violet is at top and red is at bottom. So violet and red. So it is secondary rainbow, and in primary rainbow, red is at top and violet is at bottom. So this is primary rainbow. Angular separation is generally at standard 3 degrees to 5 degree. So this is the simple concept. In primary rainbow, 2 refraction and 1 TIR. So in primary rainbow, we can clearly see that 2 times light is refracting and 1 times it is TIR, total internally reflecting. Outermost is red and innermost is violet. So outermost is red and innermost is violet. This is primary rainbow. Subtends an angle of 42 degree at the observer's eye. Angle is at 42 degree. In secondary rainbow, 2 refraction and 2 TIR. So in primary rainbow, 1 TIR and 2 refractions are there, while in secondary, 2 refractions and 2 TIRs, 2 total internal reflections are there. And innermost is red and outermost is violet. So outermost is violet and innermost is red. It is generally making an angle of 52.5 degree, or we can say almost 53 degree angle with the observer's eye. So this is the general concept of rainbow. So these are concept of colors. So it is not so important for our competitive section. Colors of object and spectrum is also not so important for our syllabus. So that's it from this chapter. Let us have a look on one or two pattern of questions. When light rays are incident on a prism at an angle of 45 degree, let us say angle of incidence is given as 45 degree, the minimum deviation is obtained. If refractive index of material is √2, then what is angle of prism? So in case of minimum deviation, we are given mu and we have to calculate angle of prism, and we are given angle of incidence I. So we know the formula, mu is equal to sine I upon sine R. And here in case of minimum deviation, we know that A is equal to R1 plus R2 means 2R, so R is equal to A by 2. So angle of prism has to be calculated. So we can say angle of incidence is given as 1 upon √2. So it is √2 is equal to 1 upon √2, and here it is sine A by 2. So it is sine A by 2 is equal to 1 upon 2. So it is 30 degrees. So angle of prism is 60 degree. So it is directly formula based question. So option number D is correct here. Similarly, angle of minimum deviation for a prism of refractive index 1.5 is equal to angle of prism. It means we are given that A is equal to del M and mu is given as 1.5. So we have to calculate angle of prism. So we have to calculate angle of prism. We can use simply relation mu is equal to A plus del M upon 2 divided by sine A by 2. We are given relation in A and del M. So we can calculate by using this formula. So students, these are some pattern of questions based on it. You can attempt these questions. These are very easy questions. So that's it from refraction of light from prism and curvical surfaces. So students, in our next lecture, we will talk about our new topic. That's it for today. Note down these questions and practice on your own. Thank you for watching today's video. We will meet in next video lecture with our new topic. Thank you.